This happened back in high school. Linda, my best friend, invited me to her little brother Leo's birthday party. It was supposed to be a normal afternoon, balloons, cake, and kids running around. Then a familiar face appeared in the doorway. Bob. He had been in our class for years, always the quiet, awkward one. He never spoke unless spoken to, and even then it was barely a mumble. People avoided him, not out of cruelty, but because he felt off. I turned to Linda. "Did you invite Bob?" She made a face. "Heck no. He's the entertainment." The word stuck in my head. Entertainment? Minutes later, Bob returned. My stomach dropped. He was in a clown costume. Thick, uneven face paint smeared across his skin, exaggerating his already unsettling features. The forced grin, the hollow eyes, the garish colors, it made my skin crawl. And yet he was different. The usual hunched posture, the withdrawn muttering, gone. He was lively, animated, throwing himself into his act with a manic enthusiasm that felt wrong. He twisted balloons into animals, pulled ribbons from his sleeves, made exaggerated gestures that sent kids into fits of laughter. But I wasn't laughing. I had never told Linda this, but I had a deep, irrational fear of clowns. And Bob? Bob felt like something worse than a clown. The smell of grease paint mixed with the overly sweet scent of birthday cake. The laughter of children warped into something distant and unnatural. The room felt too small. The walls felt like they were closing in. I barely made it through the hour. When the party ended, I practically ran home. But that was only the beginning. The first letter appeared in my locker the next day. "You're beautiful. I like you." The handwriting was jagged, pressed into the paper with too much force. I stared at it for a long moment before crumpling it up and tossing it into the garbage. The next morning, another letter. "Why did you throw it away?" That hurt me. A single red balloon was tied to the vent inside my locker. My hands shook as I untied it. It escalated after that. A balloon dog, identical to the one he made at the party, slipped into my bag. A plastic flower pin, just like the one he wore, left on my desk. A torn piece of fabric, smeared with red, stuffed into my locker. Then came the tapping. At first I thought I was imagining it, but as the nights passed it grew louder. Tap, tap, tap. Always the same rhythm. Always just past midnight. One night I finally looked. Bob stood under the street lamp, dressed in the same clown costume, holding a red balloon. His face, still painted in that grotesque grin, tilted slightly upward. He didn't move. He just watched. I barely slept that night. The next day, my mom went straight to the principal. That's when we learned the truth. Bob's life was a mess. He lived in a run-down trailer park, surviving on food stamps, caught in a cycle of neglect and instability. He had no real friends, no stable home. Just school, his odd obsessions, and now, apparently, me. The counselor mentioned something else, something they weren't supposed to say. A long, heavy silence stretched before she finally muttered, "There was an incident, a few years ago, another girl." She didn't elaborate. When the principal threatened expulsion, the harassment stopped. No more notes, no more tapping, no more red balloons. For weeks I tried to convince myself it was over, that I was safe. Then late one night, as I lay in bed, I heard it. Faint, just barely audible. A whisper, it almost sounded like laughter. I told myself it was just the wind. Years passed. I moved away, got a job in the city, and then, one evening, as I left my office, I saw it. A single red balloon tied to the metal fence outside. I froze. My heart pounded in my ears. I forced myself to breathe. It's just a coincidence, I told myself. Just some kid's balloon. But that night, as I lay in bed, my phone buzzed. A message from Linda. Hey, I don't want to freak you out, but I think I just saw Bob.